Hello, dear friends. Remember that time when a man was living in the palaces of Egypt? Like a prince, he had everything, honor, wealth, and power. But then came a day when everything changed. One incident forced him to leave the city, and he set out alone, hungry, thirsty, and exhausted on a long journey. Endless deserts, scorching sun, and a body weakened by hunger. Yet there was one heart still calling upon its Lord. At last, he raised his hands toward the sky and pleaded, "Oh my Lord, I'm truly in need of whatever good you may send down to me, my friends." That was the moment when a hungry prayer turned into destiny. God did not just provide him with food, he granted him the one who would prepare it for him. Yes. That was the time when Moses, peace be upon him, met Zipporah, a pure, modest woman whose single encounter changed the course of history. But how did this meeting happen? Did Moses, peace be upon him, truly marry not one, but two women? And on what conditions did his father-in-law, Prophet Jethro, peace be upon him, arrange the marriage? All of this you'll hear in today's video. A story that is not just about marriage, but about a divine decision that shaped destiny itself. Friends, this story begins here when Moses, peace be upon him, was living in Egypt. He was young, strong, and full of courage. One day, as he entered the city, he saw two men fighting. One was an Israelite, and the other an Egyptian. The Israelite called out to Moses, peace be upon him, for help. Moses stepped forward and struck the Egyptian with his fist. But that single blow was so powerful that the Egyptian died on the spot. The news spread across Egypt like wildfire. When it reached Pharaoh's court, an order was announced. Moses must be captured at all costs. But before the night had even fully fallen, a man came running and said, "Oh, Moses, the court has already issued the order for your execution. Leave this place immediately." And that was the moment when Moses, peace be upon him, left Egypt. No food, no companion, no ride, only a long, desolate journey ahead. The Holy Quran tells us that he set out toward Midian. Along the way, hunger, thirst, and exhaustion wore him down. Yet in his heart remained a single certainty: the Lord who has brought me this far will surely guide me further. At last, when he reached the well of Midian, a remarkable scene appeared before his eyes. Many shepherds were drawing water for their flocks, and standing aside were two women, waiting modestly for their turn. It was there that the meeting began, the meeting that would change Moses' life forever. When Moses, peace be upon him, saw the two young women, compassion stirred in his heart. He approached them gently and asked, "Why do you both stand back with your animals?" With grace and modesty they replied, "We do not water our flock until the shepherds have moved theirs away, and our father is an old man." My friends, upon hearing this, Moses, peace be upon him, felt a deep wave of mercy, honor, and the urge to help without hesitation or question. He stepped forward to the well and lifted the heavy stone that even 10 men together could not move. He drew water, gave their flock to drink, and then, weary and weak, walked to rest beneath the shade of a tree. He was starving, his body drained, but the flame of faith still burned within his heart. And there, beneath that tree, he raised his eyes to the heavens and uttered the prayer that changed his destiny. Moses, peace be upon him, said, "Oh my Lord, I'm in desperate need of whatever good you may send down to me." And friends, that prayer was not rejected, for it came from a heart that was sincere, broken, and immersed in devotion. No sooner had he finished praying than another scene unfolded before him. One of the two young women approached him, walking modestly and with grace, and said softly, "My father calls you, so that he may reward you for watering our flock." My friends, that was the moment when God opened the doors of relief, honor, and a new future for a hungry, lonely traveler. Moses, peace be upon him, began walking with her. But look, my friends, at his integrity and purity. He said to her, "I do not know the way. Walk behind me." When we must change direction, throw a small pebble ahead of me and I will understand. What a magnificent example of modesty and character. And that very modesty, that purity, was later written in his destiny as marriage. When Moses, peace be upon him, reached the home of the elderly man, he found before him none other than the prophet of God, Jethro, peace be upon him. Moses greeted him respectfully, sat down, and told him everything, how one mistake had forced him to leave Egypt. Jethro, peace be upon him, smiled and said, "Do not fear. You have escaped from the land of the wrongdoers. This place lies beyond their reach." Then his daughter, Zipporah, said to her father, "Father, hire him. For the best person you can hire is one who is strong and trustworthy." Hearing these words, Prophet Jethro, peace be upon him, asked, "My daughter, how did you know that he is both strong and trustworthy?" Zipporah replied, "Father, that stone at the well, the one that even 10 men could not lift, he moved it alone. That is proof of his strength. And when I went to call him, he said, 'I will not walk behind you. You walk behind me.' That shows his integrity. My friends, that was the very moment when Prophet Jethro, peace be upon him, said, 'I wish to give you one of my 2 daughters, Zipporah, in marriage, on the condition that you work for me for 8 years. And if you complete 10 years, that will be out of your own kindness. I do not intend to burden you. If God wills, you will find me among the righteous.' Moses, peace be upon him, replied, 'Let this be an agreement between you and me. Whichever of the 2 terms I fulfill, let there be no injustice toward me. And God is the witness over what we say.'" Dear friends, the name of the blessed wife of Moses, peace be upon him, was Zipporah. She was the elder daughter of Prophet Jethro, peace be upon him. The story of their marriage is mentioned in the Holy Quran. Friends, when Moses, peace be upon him, arrived at the home of Prophet Jethro and shared all that had happened to him, Jethro listened with deep compassion and wisdom. He realized that this was no ordinary traveler, but a noble, righteous man, filled with faith and good character. So, Jethro, peace be upon him, consulted his 2 daughters. Commentators have written that their names were Zipporah and Leah. In some traditions, they are mentioned as Zipporah and Shurah, and some scholars have written that the elder was called Safra and the younger Sapphira. But the majority of scholars and historians, including Ibn Ishaq, Wahb ibn Munabbih, al-Bazzar, at-Tabarani, and al-Bagawi, all agree that Moses, peace be upon him, married the younger daughter, Zipporah. It was this very Zipporah whom the Quran describes, the woman who walked with modesty and grace toward Moses, peace be upon him, and said, "Father, hire him, for the best person to hire is one who is strong and trustworthy." My friends, it was this modesty and wisdom that earned Zipporah the honor of being chosen by the prophet of her time as his wife. Before marriage, she devoted herself to serving her father, and after marriage, she served her husband with the same sincerity and grace. Friends, it is narrated that time passed and Moses, peace be upon him, fulfilled the years he had promised to work for Prophet Jethro, peace be upon him, with honesty, dedication, and loyalty. During that time, his married life blossomed with love, peace, and divine blessings. Zipporah proved to be a righteous, modest, and obedient wife, a woman whose character was worthy of a prophet. And then one day, and when the agreed period was complete, Moses, peace be upon him, said to his family, "Come, let us return to our homeland." It was night. The sky was dark, and they were traveling together across the desert. Suddenly, in the distance, he saw a light glowing from the direction of a mountain. Moses, peace be upon him, said, "Wait here. I will go and bring some news from there, or perhaps a burning torch, so that you may have warmth." My friends, that light was, in fact, the light of Mount Sinai, and what Moses, peace be upon him, witnessed there opened a new chapter for all of humanity. Suddenly, a voice resounded, filled with mercy and majesty. "O Moses, indeed I am God, the Lord of all the worlds. That was the moment when a traveler, a laborer, a wronged and weary man, by the command of God, became a prophet. And see the beauty of destiny, the journey that began with hunger. Fear and loneliness ended in revelation, prophethood, and divine light. Friends, when revelation descended upon Moses, peace be upon him, in the valley of Tuah, that moment was not just a meeting. It was the fulfillment of destiny itself. God said, "O Moses, I have chosen you for my message. Go to Pharaoh. He has indeed transgressed all bounds." Moses, peace be upon him, humbly replied, "My Lord, expand my chest for me. Untie the knot from my tongue, so that they may understand my words, and appoint my brother Aaron as my helper." God said, "We have accepted your request. Go, we are with you, listening and watching." Hearing this, Moses, peace be upon him, descended from the mountain, his heart illuminated with the light of prophethood, and his lips glorifying the name of God. He returned to his wife Zipporah and his children. When Zipporah saw him, she noticed a special radiance on his face, an unusual calm, a light unlike any she had ever seen. She asked, "Moses, what is this light? Why is your face shining like this?" Moses, peace be upon him, smiled and said, "Zipporah, today my Lord spoke to me. I am no longer just your husband. I have been chosen as a prophet of God." Hearing this, Zipporah bowed in gratitude, thanking the Almighty. She knew this path would not be easy, but the steps of true believers never turn back. A few days later, Moses, peace be upon him, set out toward Egypt, leaving his family behind for a time. It was the very land from which he had once fled for his life. But now, by God's command, he was returning, carrying the message of truth, my friends. Imagine that moment. How extraordinary it must have been. The man who once lived in Pharaoh's palace as a prince was now entering that same palace as a messenger of God. When Moses, peace be upon him, stood before Pharaoh, the tyrant said mockingly, "O Moses, are you not the same man who killed someone and then fled? And now you stand before me claiming to be a prophet?" With perfect calm, Moses, peace be upon him, replied, "Yes, I am that same Moses, but today I have come with the truth from my Lord. I call upon you to believe in God and to set the children of Israel free." Pharaoh laughed arrogantly and said, "Do you claim there is any God besides me?" Moses, peace be upon him, answered, "My Lord is the one who created everything and then guided it to its purpose." Pharaoh said, "If you speak the truth, then show me a sign." So, by the command of God, Moses, peace be upon him, cast his staff upon the ground, and it turned into a living serpent. The entire court trembled in fear. Pharaoh's magicians were left speechless, for they knew this was no illusion, no trick. It was real, but Pharaoh's pride blinded his heart. He said, "This is nothing but sorcery. Tomorrow I will summon all my magicians. We shall see who truly prevails." The next day, Egypt's largest field was prepared. Crowds gathered from every corner. Pharaoh sat proudly upon his throne, and hundreds of magicians entered the arena, carrying ropes and staffs in their hands. They said to Moses, peace be upon him, "Will you cast first, or shall we?" Moses replied calmly, "You cast first." They threw their ropes, and the ground filled with serpents. People screamed in terror. Then by God's command, Moses cast his staff, and it swallowed every rope, every serpent, every illusion before their eyes. The magicians stood stunned. They realized this was no magic. It was the power of the Lord of Moses, and they fell to the ground in prostration, saying, "We believe in the Lord of Moses and Aaron." Pharaoh's arrogance shattered, but his cruelty remained. Those who believed in Moses, peace be upon him, were punished, yet faith had already begun to spread like light in the darkness. And far away in Midian, Zipporah, the wife of Moses, peace be upon him, would stay awake through the nights, praying for her husband's mission. She became a symbol of patience and faith, a woman whose name is not mentioned in the Holy Book, yet whose quiet strength echoes through every page of history. Friends, the journey of Moses, peace be upon him, was no longer just a call to faith. It had become a call to freedom. It was the beginning of deliverance, when the children of Israel were led out of slavery and brought onto the path of God. Time went on, and the signs of God kept appearing. Moses, peace be upon him, showed Pharaoh one miracle after another, miracles that were not merely signs, but divine warnings meant to shake human arrogance. God willed to give Pharaoh a chance to recognize the truth and abandon oppression. But Pharaoh's heart had turned to stone. Before his eyes appeared wonders that would make mighty kings tremble, yet every time he clung to his pride. Then came the first punishment, water turning into blood. The river Nile, the very lifeline of Egypt, suddenly transformed into thick, red blood. People came to draw water, but their jars and pitchers filled only with blood. Their cattle cried out in thirst. Their food became defiled, and their homes filled with despair. Yet, astonishingly, in the places where the Israelites lived, the water remained clear and pure. Pharaoh saw this, but instead of taking it as a lesson, he called it sorcery. When the suffering grew unbearable, Pharaoh said to Moses, peace be upon him, pray to your Lord for me. If this calamity is removed, I will believe. Moses prayed, and God lifted the punishment. But the moment relief came, Pharaoh broke his promise once again. Then came the second plague, frogs. Friends, just imagine frogs everywhere. In homes, in kitchens, on beds, on the royal throne, even inside Pharaoh's crown. When people ate, frogs leapt into their bowls. When they slept, frogs jumped upon their bodies. All of Egypt filled with noise, filth and chaos. Yet still, Pharaoh's heart did not soften. Once again he said, Moses, pray to your Lord, I will let you go. Moses prayed, and when the frogs disappeared, Pharaoh again went back on his word. Then came the third plague, lice. The dust of the earth turned into swarming lice that clung to every human and animal. There was no peace, no rest, no sleep, no comfort. The entire empire sank into misery. Pharaoh's courtiers, magicians and ministers cried out, this is no magic, this is the wrath of God. But Pharaoh did not listen. He remained drowned in his delusion of divinity and continued to deny Moses, peace be upon him, again and again. Then came the fourth plague, flies and blood-sucking insects that covered the land. They swarmed everywhere, biting people, infesting food and drink, spreading torment across Egypt. The people cried out in fear. But Pharaoh still did not stop. And when Pharaoh's people continued in their stubbornness, God sent upon them the fifth punishment, a plague upon their livestock. Their animals began to fall and die. Camels, cows, sheep and goats all perished one after another. The stench of death spread across the land, and Egypt's economy collapsed. Yet Pharaoh's arrogance remained unshaken. Then God revealed another sign through Moses, peace be upon him, painful boils and sores. People's bodies became covered in boils and blisters. No ointment could soothe them. No remedy could bring relief. Still, they persisted in their defiance. Then came the seventh plague, a devastating storm of hail. The sky grew heavy with dark clouds, thunder roared, and hailstones like rocks rained down from above. Trees shattered, crops were destroyed, roofs collapsed. It was a scene that felt like the day of judgment itself. Terrified, Pharaoh's people screamed, "O Moses, pray to your Lord for us. Save us and we will believe." Moses prayed, and the punishment was lifted. But as soon as the sky cleared, Pharaoh said again, it was only temporary magic. Then came the eighth punishment, locusts. Friends, imagine it. The sky turned black, as if the sun itself had been swallowed. Countless locusts swarmed over Egypt, devouring fields, gardens, and every green leaf in sight. The land turned barren, the air darkened, and hunger spread everywhere. This was a punishment meant to humble mankind, to make hearts bow before the Creator. But Pharaoh only stiffened his neck even more. Then came the ninth plague, darkness, a darkness so thick that even the sun could not pierce it. For 3 days, Egypt was covered in shadow. No one could leave their homes. No lamp could give light. But in the places where the Israelites lived, There was brightness and peace. It was a clear sign. Yet Pharaoh still refused to believe. And finally, God sent the 10th and most severe punishment, the death of the firstborn sons. In the stillness of the night, cries of anguish rose from every Egyptian home. In every house, the firstborn child had died, whether it was the son of a king or that of a servant. Only the homes of the Israelites remained untouched. That was the moment when the walls of Pharaoh's pride began to tremble, yet the darkness within him refused to fade. After every punishment he would plead, "O Moses, pray to your Lord for me, and I will believe. I will let you go." But each time relief came, he would say arrogantly, "I am God myself. What can Moses do to me?" His heart was veiled by pride, so much so that even when truth stood clear before him, he denied it again and again. Friends, these were not just events. They were repeated warnings from God, reminders that mankind must remain humble, that creation must never attempt to become the creator. But when pride and defiance take over a man's heart, his end can only be destruction. And then came the final command from God, "O Moses, take my servants and depart by night. Do not be afraid, for you all shall be safe." Moses, peace be upon him, gathered the children of Israel. It was a dark night. Clouds veiled the sky, and silence filled the streets of Egypt. Thousands of slaves slipped out of their homes, faces lit with hope, believing that this was the night their centuries of bondage would end. On the other side, when Pharaoh learned of it, he set out with his army in pursuit. Chariots thundered, horses galloped, and the ground shook beneath their charge. Behind them roared Pharaoh's army. Before them lay the vast waters of the Nile. The Israelites froze in fear and cried out, "Moses, we are trapped." Moses, peace be upon him, replied with complete faith, "Never. My Lord is with me. He will surely make a way." Friends, that was the moment when human hope ended and divine faith began. Then God said, "Moses, strike the sea with your staff." Moses obeyed, and the sea split into two. The waters rose high like mountains on either side, while a dry path appeared in the middle. The people of Israel stood in awe, then began walking through, faith on one side, a miracle on the other. When Pharaoh saw this, pride swelled in his chest. "If Moses can part the sea," he shouted, "then a path shall open for me as well." And he charged forward with his army onto the same path. But as soon as the Israelites reached the other side, God commanded, "Moses, strike the sea once more," and instantly the waters collapsed. The towering waves crashed down from both sides, and Pharaoh, along with his soldiers, was swallowed by the sea. In his final moment, Pharaoh cried out, "I believe. There is no God but the Lord of Moses and Aaron." But a voice answered, "Now, when you disbelieved before and spread corruption on earth?" And so Pharaoh's body was cast upon the shore, left as a sign for generations to come, a reminder of the fate of arrogance. Friends, in that moment, Prophet Moses fell in prostration, thanking his Lord. Around him stood thousands who had once been slaves. Now free by the mercy of God and far away, in Midian, his wife Zipporah prayed softly, "O God, grant success to my husband's mission." And indeed, God accepted the prayer of that patient woman, for behind every prophet's triumph, there is always the quiet prayer of a faithful heart. Friends, this is not just a story. It is a complete portrait of faith, patience, modesty, and devotion. The journey of Prophet Moses from the palace to prophethood, and the journey of Lady Zipporah from silent service to eternal honor, both teach us one truth. God's promise is always fulfilled. Faith is the only condition. And friends, let me also clarify, this story of Prophet Moses is not only mentioned in the Holy Quran, but also in the Torah and the Bible. All three faiths, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, agree that Moses parted the sea by God's command. But the question is, how did it happen? That's the mystery that still amazes scientists today. Carl Drews, a Christian software engineer from Hollywood who worked on the film Exodus, Gods and Kings, tried to explore the scientific explanation behind this miracle. He said, I'm one of those Christians who believe in creation, and I think this event could have occurred naturally, through a rare weather phenomenon. At first, people dismissed his theory as mere fiction, but when the University of Colorado included Carl's research in its master's thesis program, meteorologists were astonished by what they found. Greg Holland, a leading storm researcher, said, "We never thought it was possible for water to split like that, but Carl's theory made us look at it differently." According to Carl, the event took place in the Red Sea, between present-day Saudi Arabia and Egypt. He proposed that a powerful east wind, blowing at more than 60 miles per hour, might have pushed the waters aside. In scientific terms, this is called the wind set-down effect, a phenomenon where strong winds drive seawater away from one region, temporarily exposing the seabed as dry land. What's fascinating is that similar natural events have indeed been recorded in different parts of the world, moments when nature itself seems to bow to the will of the divine. For example, the same phenomenon has been observed in Lake Erie, and even back in 1882 at the Nile Delta, when strong winds pushed the waters back, revealing dry land in between. Friends, when we learn these things, we can't help but be amazed, because what science calls natural laws are in truth the laws of God's command. When God says be, even the sea opens a path and the waters obey. So, dear friends, remember this: every prophet's journey is filled with trials, yet behind every trial lies divine wisdom. Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, opened his eyes in Pharaoh's palace and received revelation in the desert of Sinai. He walked through the courts of kings, and in the end, bowed before the throne of God. His life teaches us this timeless truth, that honor, strength, and success open only through faith and patience. When a person turns their trust away from the world and places it solely in God, even the sea parts for them. And Zipporah, she was the silent strength of this story, leaving behind a legacy of loyalty, modesty, and patience that will last until the end of time. Her greatest triumph wasn't found in worldly wealth, but in her unwavering devotion to a prophet of God. So, friends, whenever you face hard roads, closed doors, or dark oceans ahead, remember Prophet Moses and hold on to your faith, because the same God who parted the sea still creates paths for his servants today. Dear friends, if this story of faith touched your heart, please like it with sincerity and share it with others, so that this light may reach another soul. And yes, if you'd like us to bring you more such historical and spiritual stories in upcoming videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because this journey of faith hasn't ended yet. It has only just begun, so we'll meet again in the next story.